Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to the Fictive Fun Stream. Back with another Saturday Stories, another one shot of a very fun story game. Today we're playing one of my personal favorites, the game that dragged me back into the tabletop world, Swords Without Master. Joined today by Andy, Lou, David, and Michael. And real quick, we'll go around, have everybody introduce themselves, say hi, where they can be found on Twitter or Facebook or wherever you may be found on the world of the internets. So let's start with Michael.
Good afternoon, everyone. Yes, I am Michael. I use he, him, and on Twitter you can find me at Michael G. Barford. And today I will be playing. Are we introducing characters now, or?
We'll come back around and do characters
Well, then you'll just have to wait and see.
with anticipation. Awesome. Thank you, David.
My name is David, and I am also going pronouns he, him. And you can find me on Twitter at DALAFREN.
Awesome. Thank you, David. And Andy.
There we go. Hi, I'm Andy. I go by he, him. And you can find me online at Twitter at Curubethion. That's CURUBETHION.
Awesome. Thank you, Andy. And Lou.
Hello, I'm Lou. I use he, him pronouns, and I am also on the places in the internet.
All the places on the internet. Lou is everywhere.
We are all Lou.
Yeah, we are all Lou. Touching back on our game last week. Awesome. Thank you, Lou. Those that have seen the stream before may recognize Lou from the Tuesday night stream where he plays a lovely goblin named Skive that's addicted to opium. Among other things. Sweet. So yes, we are playing Swords Without Master today, and I'm gonna go back around and have everybody introduce their characters, but I just realized I haven't introduced myself. I am Patrick. I go by he, him, and I'm on all the internets at Fictive Fun. So just search Fictive Fun and you'll probably find something about me. Sweet. So Andy, you are a Swords Without Master veteran. Let's have you introduce your character first.
All right. Today I'm going to be playing Volor Yotakin. So you wanted me to just go through all the basic stuff?
Yeah, you can tell us about your
Yeah.
named and your feats heroic and trick.
Yeah, so they're named are the Heart of Winter, the sorceress being that imbues me with power, the Eyes of the Father, which mark me as a warrior, fierce but mortal. But they're kind of like this makeup sigil on their face. And Frost Kenning, the end of the world which my people foretell.
Awesome. Once you see the starting Eidolon, it seems like your character's in the perfect place. All right, what about the feats heroic?
Yeah, so my Glum Feat Heroic, which you might see in action, a hoarfrost emerges from my mouth, nestling across the world and locking it in place. So, it's like this ice breath sort of thing.
Oh, sweet.
Jovial, with the sanguine roar, I grow to the stature of a giant and wreak havoc.
Sounds safe.
Oh, yeah.
And what trick did you choose for today?
So I chose a somewhat contrasting omen trick. I wrote down a thunder, a single burning shaft of sunfire. And before any phase starts, like before the thunder is provided, I can demand that the phase use that as the thunder.
Mm-hmm. And to those that don't know the game or are learning the game, when we set a scene, every scene has a thunder, which is an ill portent of something bad may happen. It may occur. When we are in a perilous phase, aka fighting phase, the thunder happens immediately and becomes a storm. So, if I declare a perilous phase and Andy wants to play the omen trick, then that's gonna signify the coming of something really bad. Awesome, thank you, Andy. Lou, let's have you introduce your character.
Got a million things open. Yes, my character, she is called Bronya. the all that deserves a name, Skin of Steel. So she's wearing, or perhaps is, a rune carved, like full suit of probably I'm gonna say that it's black rune carved black plate armor with the mask and everything. And it's potentially her exoskeleton. I'm not sure yet. I don't know what's in there. Her other thing, I'm still working on the poetry of this part, but she has I think she's got some like Wolverine-esque blades that will come out of her, unbreakable blades that can come out of her fists for punching and causing terrible carnage with. And my other name thing is Forge of the Gods. And I've just got that as where I was born, so it's alluding to the fact that either her armor or herself was forged by the gods at some stage in the past. Feats heroic, jovial, I've got Burning Sun. I lift the cover of my mask and a burning light glows forth. I feast on the flesh of the fallen. So that sounds like a happy, fun time. Glum, pulsating orb. I crumple into a heap. The runes on my armor pulsate and form. Pulsating twice. I'm going to say a glowing orb around my prone form. I don't know what that orb does yet.
We'll find out.
Yes. And my trick is Inevitable Foe. So I can essentially name an enemy I wish to face, and then before the overplayer chooses a new phase, I can demand that it's a perilous one, and my foe is the storm. And I'm toying with the idea of using David's character's father that he named, but I guess the move kind of leaves it open, right? Like I can name the foe when I choose to use my trick. Is that right? Or am I meant to name it now so you can actually plan for it?
Well, you want to name it beforehand. You want to actually know what or who your foe is.
Okay, well, my foe is Bernard Fitzsteel.
Awesome. So,
but I'm totally, because I'm perhaps bending the rules, I'm not going to describe anything about them because that dude belongs to David's character. So I'll work out why he's my foe, I guess, when I hear something about it.
Awesome. Yeah, that works. So the way that trick works is as soon as we end a phase, if Lou wants to face off with the inevitable foe on the next phase, he'll just announce I'm using my trick, and the very next phase will be a perilous phase, with that being the storm. Sweet. Thanks for bringing cannibalism into it. We're not playing Shadow the Demon Lord tonight, Lou.
Well, it's only cannibalism if I'm eating another one of myself, right?
I guess. Sweet. At least you're not playing a staff this time, which was the case the last time we played Swords together. Awesome. All right, David. Let's hear about your character.
Sure, I'm playing Joccob Flint. He has, for all that deserves a name, the Piss Pits of Alzir, which is where he is from, his home, the Evershard of Kholinar, his rightful inheritance, and then, as has been mentioned, Bernard Fitzsteel, who is his father. For feats heroic, the jovial feat is claiming his heritage from great ancestor to great ancestor, calling forth their might into his fists or weapon. He'll break free of whatever the obstacle is. The glum is the opposite, reciting in a deadpan voice the names of the ancestors who were betrayed or shamed or slighted by their low birth. The restless spirits will destroy the obstacle in my way. And then my trick is canny cognition, which I have selected to be Mother's Teaching, which lets me, at a certain point in the game, demand that I'd be able to demonstrate this unique insight. So I've got the whole family here and a whole heritage thing going with Jockob Flint.
I like it. Looking at the picture you chose for your Eidolon, it's very shamanistic. So when you say like Mother's Teaching, are you talking about like your actual mother, or like a term that your people use, or your community uses?
No, my biological mother.
Okay. Sweet. Awesome. Thank you. And finally, but not least, Michael.
Yes, I will be playing Scholar Dakkary, who is a scholar of some renown, I suppose. Um, and I imagine he sort of vacillates between being very like um, bookworm focused on what he's reading, hyper focused, and then also he likes to party. So you might see him also kind of letting loose and enjoying all the pleasures of life. As far as the things that deserve a name, I think that Scholar Dakkary is on a sort of quest. And three important parts of that quest include the sacred river Alf, which is a legendary landmark that's sort of hidden from the world. But if you can find it, it's said to lead to great fame and fortune. And there, for Scholar Dakkary, his people, they have this famed ruler, Kublai Khan, from the past, who is known to be powerful, benevolent, and cruel. So I think that he sort of carries that legacy with him in many ways. And finally, the place that I think that Dakkary is pursuing is the immortal prison of blissful internment, Xanadu. As far as feats heroic go, for Jovial, they're both sort of having to do a little bit with song and dance and stories. So for Jovial, Dakkary can sort of engage in this hypnotic, jubilant dance, and it sort of hypnotizes everyone around him to dance along with him, and also to sort of leave themselves vulnerable and distracted. And for Glum, I will recount their deaths, which have been foretold in my people's folk songs and tales, and then proceed to carry out the prophecy, so to speak. As far as my trick goes, I have chosen Destiny, which allows me to sort of pre-choose some of the elements of our motifs going forward. And those are Caves of Ice, Honeydew, and the Milk of Paradise. And I'm hoping that at least one person out there, the internet, who's watching this may have gathered the source of my inspiration, my eidolon, which is a song by Rush called Xanadu.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Mike, because the whole time you were talking, actually on the Twitch overlay was the lyrics to Xanadu.
Perfect.
So sorry if I ruined your mystery there. My fault.
It happens.
But yeah, I love that you chose music lyrics. I always love when people go with something that's not art for an eidolon.
Yeah, it's a weird long Rush song, which is probably, you can say that about many of their songs, but like it's just one that I've always found really intriguing and interesting, and have always wanted to see expressed at a gaming table. And so hopefully this will give me the opportunity.
Awesome, I love it. So I will show you all the starting eidolon for this game, and I'll paste it in our Zoom chat so you can all see it. Everybody on stream can see it already. So that is the setting that you'll find your characters in. Basically, I searched Pinterest for ice, and this was the most swords and sorcery one that I could think of. Yeah, let's first let's kind of touch on some stuff with the game here. I'm in lose boat. I got too many windows open right now. So to play swords, you need 2d6, and you need 2d6 of different colors. You can use physical dice, you can use online dice, however you see fit. You can roll, or you can use roll for your party if you would like, roll 20, however you want to roll your dice. But they do need to be different colors, because one needs to represent glum, and the other needs to represent jovial. So usually you can use like a light colored dice, or a white die, or a red die for jovial, and a darker colored die for glum, like black. There you go. So Lou's got a couple of good choices there. So when you roll your dice, the rolling of dice in this game don't determine obstacle resolution or conflict resolution. They determine the tone in which you are going to narrate your actions. So whatever die is higher is going to be your tone for that narration. I think you need another color, Mike. um, feel free to use the online tool if you need to. But go ahead, Andy. You had a question?
Yeah, I actually just wanted to run off for a little bit, grab mine, because I'm like, I got to get some physical dice here. So I'll be right back.
Okay, yeah, no problem. I'll just keep on explaining until Andy gets back. So, like, say you rolled your glum die is higher than your jovial die. Your narration will be in a glum tone. And let me go back to that tabletop here. So if you look on the bottom right corner of the character sheet, you'll see glum there with some synonyms. So your narration wants to kind of fit in that mood and that tone. Same thing for jovial. There are special rules for when your dice are tied, and there are special rules for where neither of your dice is higher than 3. So we'll get to that point. We'll explain those rules when they show up. If they show up, they probably will show up, by the way. So anytime you roll doubles or neither of your dice are higher than 3, just let me know. The phases of the game. There are 3 phases of Swords Without Master. At least 3 basic phases. And they don't have to go in any order. And they are the Discovery phase, the Rogues phase, and the Perilous phase. The Discovery phase is the most story gamey part of Swords Without Master I could think of. It's where you get to add details about the world, things your rogue knows, things your rogue is just finding out, but it could be anything. As long as it fits within the tone of Swords and Sorcery, like, don't bring in a Apache helicopter or like an F-16 into here. It's not that kind of weird Swords and Sorcery. Sorry, Mike. The Rogues phase is where we get to see all your characters be badasses. So we'll make demands of each other. And you get to answer the question in any way you wish. So like, perhaps I could say, Bronya, show us how you cross this chasm that's half a mile long. And then Lou would get to narrate in a jovial or glum tone how Bronya gets across the chasm. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. And then Lou gets to pose a question to somebody else. And finally, the Perilous phase, which is probably the most complicated for new players because it's so different than the other 2 phases. That's more of a conflict phase where you're facing off against another foe or the environment. And there's more back and forth with the player holding the dice, but we'll cover that when we get to the Perilous phase. So we'll move to a Perilous phase when things are getting iffy. And also that is the only phase your rogue is allowed to die in. So if you want your rogue to die, make sure it's in a Perilous phase or in the epilogue. Lou's character is going to die because Lou's character always dies. Awesome. Are there any questions before we jump in and get started? No? Awesome. So real quick, before we jump into the game, let me roll the dice and see what the overtone is. Okay, we are glum to start. Not surprising, since we are moving into a icy necropolis, or an icy tomb. Glum seems to be a good start. But before we jump into play, I just want to hear from, real quick, to get some buy-in. Volor, what reason do you have for coming to the icy tome of long-dead ancient kings?
So I think that Volor's come because they're following a prophecy that seems to be slowly coming true about Frostkenning. So the apocalypse that their people foretells, there are things that are finally starting to emerge
So are you looking for answers here? I mean, do your people believe that like this is the source of it, or just that you might find some information on it?
I think this is the first step. Like, not the source, but this is the first step in a long chain of events.
Awesome. Love it. All right, Lou, why would Bronya be here?
Can I hear David's first? Because I want to hear if he says anything about his dad.
Sure. Jacob, or is it Joccob?
Yeah, Jockob.
Joccob. Okay.
Jockob's here because he needs to improve his chances to claim his inheritance. To do that, he needs the bones of his ancestors.
Oh, nice. Chances with inheritance. Why is it? Did your father not believe in you or something?
Jockob is a unclaimed bastard whose mother is from the piss pits, but she sought out the blood of this noble house to birth a son because she is in fact a witch and knows how to create certain things for her lineage out of the blood of nobles.
Dude, that backstory would make one hell of a fantasy series. That's awesome. Lou, is that enough for you to go on for Bronya, or do you want to give you a few minutes?
So I think I'm here. I think perhaps that Jockob's mother has called me forth to accompany Jockob on this journey. Like, I already existed. I think she's summoned me.
You're just a golem. You're just a golem, just a construct. No, I'm just joking, but
You're just a construct.
Does Jockob know that Bronya is like here for protection, or just thinks that Bronya's here and won't go away?
I don't know. What do you think, Lou?
Perhaps I was maybe I've been I think maybe as Jockob came into the outskirts of this land, maybe I was waiting. I was standing here waiting, and now I'm kind of like following him.
Yeah.
Nice.
And I don't even question it. I can feel it to be correct.
Rad.
Awesome. Sweet. Scholar Dakkary, why are you here?
Well, it should not be clear. This may not be the tomb of Xanadu, for Kublai Khan was known to have many tombs on the way to the great tomb of Xanadu, but I believe that the river is leading me here. I can smell it. I can taste it.
So you're here on gut instinct.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Kind of an odd place to be on gut instinct, so deep in the mountains in the cold.
That's a good point. But without your guts, what do you got?
Well, I'm just wondering if it was like a substance like alcohol or something talking.
Oh, a little bit of liquid courage to be a bit of a compass that can help keep you warm on a cold night.
Liquid compass. First time I heard that one. Instead of a liquid courage, you have a liquid compass. My gut is telling me that way. Yeah, David, that's the way a liquid compass works. Sweet, awesome. All right, yeah, let's go ahead and jump in. I'm gonna do a discovery phase first. Let me look at my picture here. Yeah, so you are right there on that long bridge that's heading into the mouth of this menacing carving in the wall. And The wind blows harshly, but is yet seems somewhat silent as it blows through this valley, and you all kind of squinch up a little bit to save whatever warmth you have. I'm gonna take the dice, so everybody could grab these dice when you're ready to pass the dice. I'm gonna pass the dice to Volor. Volor. Oh, before that, I'm gonna give you a thunder. The thunder is the lack of sound and echoing in this valley. So, Volor, go ahead and roll and make us a discovery. You're muted, Andy.
Okay, that is a glum roll. So I think that Volor stands there at the entrance of the cave. And they listen into the silence. And beneath the silence, they can hear these voices speaking as they spend more and more time focusing and cultivating stillness within themselves. And the speech starts to form its way into words. And the question I'm going to ask is, whose name are the voices uttering?
Oh, wow. They are uttering the name of Joccob's royal heritage, the blood, the family. Is it Flint, David?
No, Flint would be a bastard name, and every
Okay.
time the lineage gets further removed from the true source, the metal in the name becomes less precious.
Okay. So, what would be the most precious metal you could think of, Andy? That is what it's whispering.
I mean, the real obvious one is just to keep going with gold, or either that or argent.
Argent sounds good.
Nice.
Yeah, that's what the voices are whispering. Argent.
That's totally what my arm is made out of now.
I love Lou's character is like a Mr. Potato Head. Just like, oh yeah, he came up with something. I'm just gonna stick it on my character. I love it. Awesome, Argent. So let's continue this discovery phase. Andy, I'll let you pass the dice. Pass it to another character you would like to make a discovery.
Yeah, I'll pass that to Scholar Dakkary.
Awesome. So, Scholar Dakkary, you have to roll your dice first, and then you will make a discovery or of something you're just now finding out or something you know about the situation. And then when you're done with that, you can ask me, the overplayer, a loaded question about it.
Okay, I have boxcars.
Oh, okay. So you roll doubles, which means it's a stymie. Okay, that's they call a stymie in the game. Now in the
Okay.
discovery phase, when you roll a stymie, it means you still get to make the discovery, but neither you nor no one else in the party sees it. So it's kind of that dramatic irony, like in a horror movie. It happens. The audience knows it happens, but you all don't.
Yeah, well, um, very interesting. I think we're standing on the bridge, right? We're almost into this open mouth of this tomb, and the sun is just coming up over the very peak, the zenith of this mountain, and as the light sort of follows behind us to the bridge, I think for just a moment there's this sparkle that I see in Joccob's eyes. And for just a moment, his appearance takes on one that is very familiar to me from the paintings and murals of our great Kublai Khan.
Awesome. All right, so let's just take a break real quick. We're having technical difficulties with David. So we're going to take a quick break, but we'll be right back. Okay, we are back. Sorry about that, folks. Just technical difficulties. Comes with the territory playing online. Yeah, Michael, you were describing the sun rising in this valley.
Yes, and when it reached its peak and the light came down over the bridge, it flashed over Joccob's face, and for just a moment, his appearance was very familiar to me because it reminded me of our famed leader, Kublai Khan. But maybe that's just this liquid courage I'm drinking. Who knows?
Awesome. And you get to ask me a loaded question about your discovery.
Indeed. What do the tales tell of the true descendant of Kublai Khan?
The tales tell that the true descendant of Kublai Khan will bring chaos and viciousness back into our world. Awesome. So, real quick before I have you pass the dice, let's talk about threads. We already have threads, a few threads filled in thanks to Scholar Dakkary's trick of destiny. So, whenever somebody says something, and this could be anybody, that says something really cool or something that just evokes a feeling in you, like that's badass or that's awesome, type it into one of those motifs. And it looks like somebody's typing right now, and we'll fill those in as we go down, so just straight down the list. When all those are filled out all the way to the third motif, we go to the end game, so it's a pacing mechanic of the game in a way. Swords Without Master can be run very fast if you have a lot of experienced players that are used to throwing down threads and saying a lot of cool things. But yeah, just keep those in mind. There is a special rule when it comes to the second and third motif. We'll get to that as soon as we get that first one filled out. So, Michael, you could pass the dice to another player you would like to see make a discovery.
I will pass it to Bronya.
Bronya, go ahead and give us a roll and make us a discovery.
So 6 and a 3, it's 6 on my jovial.
So you are jovial.
Cool. Let me look at those awesome prompt words to work out what's going on here. Jovial. Yeah, okay. So I describe a scene and then ask you a question, Pat?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Cool. Okay, so I think as this, we see this as an audience, that the kind of ray of sun passing across Joccob's face, and like, is there this strange superimposed other face there for a second? Like, we don't, I think it's all a bit like trippy. I think the camera moves across to this huge suit of black armor. And I think it's strange because you would expect the sun to glisten across its surface, but it's just this it seems to absorb all of the light rather than reflect it. And I think Bronya starts to walk towards the opening, and this is me being jovially terrifying, by the way. And I think my question is, what is it that guards the entrance or bars our way into the ice caves?
Yeah. I think the only thing that bars you from not entering the ice cave, but traversing the ice cave are your own fears and nightmares. Awesome. So, Lou, you can pass the dice to somebody else to make a discovery. This will probably be the last discovery of the phase, so I would suggest passing them to Jockob.
I'm going to pass them to Jockob. That's what I was going to do anyway.
Awesome. Jockob, go ahead and make us a roll and a discovery.
Okay, so I'm doing jovial. As the sun rises, Jockob looks up and sees a ray of the sun going forward and then hitting what at first appeared to be just a mountain of ice or snow, but then upon like further reflection and upon like the application of sunlight to it, in fact, it's some sort of gem or crystal that splits the sunlight so that it goes in two separate beams into the eyes of this skull shape on the mountain. And I would like to know what that's doing.
What the beams of light into the eyes are doing? That's a tough question.
You did mention nightmares and fears guarding the way into the thing.
I think what that is doing is activating the final guardian that guards the vault of knowledge, the center of this complex. Sweet, awesome. I'll end the phase there. Remember, when you roll dice, since we're all rolling physical dice, if neither of your dice, if your highest die is a 3, let me know.
My highest die is a 3.
Okay, so neither of your dice is above 3, right?
Correct.
Okay, so what that means is you hit a moral. And how morals work in this game is you narrate like normal, but there is a consequence to those actions. And I kind of gave you a consequence with the answer to the question. Like you activated the final guardian by crossing this bridge. So what you want to do is come up with a lesson that your character knew, or your character just needs to learn or is learning that they need to keep in mind for the future. So you will actually type in under morals. You'll type in a lesson from this role. So like when I say lesson, I mean like an actual moral, like don't throw rocks in glass houses. Don't count your chickens before you hatch, something like that. And if you need help coming up with one, you can ask for help.
And I just type it into the moral.
Yeah, just in that bullet point under morals. Just type it next to that bullet point.
It's like struck through.
I can fix that. There we go.
Cool.
Yeah, let's move Unless anybody wants to play a trick, let's move to a rogues phase. So you guys are getting ready to you cross the bridge. This is happening just after that. So when we switch phases, I can jump in time how I please. I can jump back in time. I can jump way forward in time. So this is directly after chronologically. You are at the mouth of this cave, and my overtone is jovial. Actually, I need to roll again for the new phase. And it's jovial. All right, so yeah, and as quiet and muted as it is outside, even though there's that wind that's just whipping through the valley, when you stand here, when you take steps, your footsteps echo into this cavern. And it's weird because it's not like a normal echo that kind of fades out. It's like these like reverberate, almost like feedback on a microphone and speakers. As you each step you take, it's like wah 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 wah. It's just getting louder and louder in this cave. Yeah, this is a rogue's phase, so I'll get to make a demand of somebody. And that's the thunder, is the echoing of your footsteps are reverberating and getting so loud you can actually feel the mountain shaking as you take your steps. Jockob, I'll let you keep the dice. Show us how you managed to quiet this cavern.
I roll now.
Yeah, you're gonna roll and then narrate in your tone.
Okay. And what's the deal with feats heroic?
So you use your feats heroic whenever you would like. You could use it if you don't like the tone. You could use it to ignore the dice if you roll a stymie or a moral. You can use it whenever you narrate. You can choose to use a feat heroic, but you can only use it once throughout the session.
Okay, gotcha. I think that like
What tone did you roll?
I wrote jovial
Okay.
and it was above a 3, so I think I get everyone to stop and hold still for a moment, and then I kind of get like a playful look in my eye, and I look over to Scholar Dakkary. I'm like, you seem like the kind of fellow who might know a good traveling song. Care to get one started for us?
I will pull out my lute, from my bag here and twist a couple knobs. And a single strum, but it sounds like almost like an electric guitar with the reverberation. It's just like the reverb pedals up way high. It's just like
Nice. Does that quiet the cave down, David?
I think the song that he sings as we continue forward, like it breaks the spell of the echoes. There's too much mirth in it. It ruins the enemy, like whatever this spell was that was on this cave that was making our footsteps dangerous.
I love it.
I think like musically it sounds like power chords at first, but then like as the reverberation sort of cancels out the spell here, it just sort of condenses down to just single plucks and ding 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 sort of stuff.
I'm putting that down as a motif.
Ding ding dong dong.
Not quite, but yeah, jovial music. Overcoming glum loudness. I don't know of any other way to put it. Okay, so we are on to the second motif. So we're going to keep playing, keep throwing down those motifs. The only difference is one of these motifs or one of these threads in the second motif needs to echo a thread from the first motif. So it could be anything about ice, caves, chaos, destiny, music. Could be any of those. So it doesn't have to be exact, but just in a general, if you can explain how it connects to the first motif. So David, you get to pass the dice to another rogue and make a demand of them using the format of show us how you blink.
Okay. Well, I think we've already shifted our spotlight over to Scholar Dakkary, so I'll pass the dice to Michael. And I want to know how Scholar Dakkary deals with the uncanny feeling that he's currently asleep and in a dream as he travels through this chaotic plane.
Okay. It's a 4 on the glum die presiding. So I think the trouble I'm having is that these music notes are sort of psychedelically manifesting themselves visually for me in the cave. So like when I strum, I see colors and shapes and symbols sort of flowing, and it feels very dreamlike. And I'm just sort of trying to anchor myself into the real world. And I think what I do is, I probably know 100 songs of my people, 101. But there's this like lullaby that my mom used to, sing to me at night in my crib. And it doesn't foretell any great tale. But I think it just is something that's calming and comforting and reminds me of that. And that's the music that I play. And I think that it sort of briefly summons this like spirit of my mother who sort of like nods at me as we walk along, and that grounds me.
Nice. Awesome. Yeah, so you could pass the dice to another rogue and make a demand. Anybody can end the rogue's phase whenever they feel like they've had enough of the rogue's phase. Just say, I want to end the phase. But until then, we just keep going.
Yeah, I want to pass the dice to Volor. And I want to know what they have to say to the spirits of their parent. What words do they have for them?
Oh, goodness. So I rolled jovial. I think I'm going to invoke my feat heroic here. So my glum feat heroic, a hoarfrost emerges from my mouth, nestling across the world and locking it in place. So you see the spirits of their parents emerge, and they don't even say anything physically or audibly. That frost emerges and covers all the surfaces in the cave, There's like a light layer of frost on everyone's clothes and skin. And the meaning conveyed to the spirits is that I have forgotten my quest. I must seek out the next prophecy. And I make that promise. So I would like to pass the dice to our overplayer. And I'm going to make a demand. Show us how the denizens of the cave respond to the frost.
Very nice. So as this frost covers everything, and Dakkary continues to play the ditty, that quiets the echo of this chamber before. You notice that the ditty is starting to get drowned out by almost a crackling, crunchy noise. If you could imagine like Rice Krispies popping and getting louder, this crunching noise. And then you realize that is it rhythmic? No, it's not rhythmic. It's more chaotic than that. It's footsteps crunching on ice as the frost has permeated deep, deep within this labyrinth and awoken something within. And appearing from the dark, you see a large pincer and another one. And as this begins to peel away from the darkness, it squeezes out. And you notice it has pincers, like a scorpion in front, or a crab. But a long, elongated body, like a giant millipede, ending in a tail of a scorpion. And yeah, you've heard rumors of giant, disgusting ice insects of these mountains, but they were just rumors, right? Not anymore. You're face to face with this giant scorpion millipede thing. And I'm going to end the phase there, and we're going to go to a perilous phase.
Hey, even though you're going to a perilous phase already, can I use my trick and to put my inevitable foe in it as well?
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. I do that.
Yeah, so okay. Let me roll for tone here. And I rolled doubles, which just flips the overtone. So we go from jovial to glum. Let me change my background colors to something a little more glum. Yeah, so this giant insect begins to circle around you and climb up on the ceilings. It's skittering, just totally muted out the music that was playing. And it goes up onto the high cavern ceiling above you into the darkness. And you feel the terror, just overwhelm you as you don't know where this thing is above you. At any moment, it could just drop right on top of you. How gross would that be? And you see a pinpoint of light comes closer. And then as it comes closer, you realize that there is a man, a humanoid, something holding this light. And as it becomes clearer, you realize that it's Bernard Fitzsteel, saying, "Turn back now, or it'll be the death of all of you. Neither one of you is worth the knowledge in this tomb. And I'm prepared to keep it that way. So, I'm actually going to give the dice to Joccob. Joccob, since Bernard Fitzsteel is your name. You are the only person that can destroy that, the name character. But it is also Bronya's inevitable foe. So, in fact, I'm going to give the dice to Bronya first because Bronya can struggle against this person, but cannot totally overcome it. Um, so the way the Perilous works is you don't roll the dice immediately. I'll continue to bring the storm, the danger, and just make things worse and worse and worse on your characters until Lou decides he wants to roll the dice and get out of that current situation. Yeah, so Bronya, how does it feel to suddenly see Bernard Fitzsteel here?
Well, I don't think she's seen him face to face before, but I think as some part of this summoning ritual that kind of sent me to protect Jockob, I think it might even have been an accident, but the way that Jockob's mother summoned me was like the mission and the context of the mission was kind of imbued in me. So I think that Bronya's been having like visions or nightmares about this this man. They're all about him, nothing can usually break her armor, but somehow he's able to do it. So she's been having visions, I guess, about perhaps this meeting.
Awesome. Yeah, so as you're thinking about that, you feel something warm run along the side of your helmet, I guess in an opening. Maybe it's liquid or something, you're not sure. But as you look up, you realize that it's venom dripping off this thing's massive stinger. And it looks like it's aimed right at you. Are you gonna roll or are you gonna continue to hold the dice?
Yeah, I think she probably just looks up at it and she doesn't care about venom. Venom can't hurt me.
So as this stinger pierces right into your chest plate, you don't think it's broken skin, but you could feel it pumping your armor or exoskeleton with this venom. And it no longer feels warm. It's hot. Like it is burning you. You can feel blisters rising up on your insides.
I think as the stinger punctures through her armor and she's I think like this strange like low scream like comes out of her, and we see there's a strange there is a strange like green yellow glow coming like out of her armor, and there's a I'm gonna way meta for a second. There's a strangely sweet smell like that of a honeydew melon exuding out from her. It's a strangely like sweet summery smell that's unexpected. And I think she kind of grabs onto the stinger and she like points towards Jockob, and we hear like go, and she's like trying to hold the centipede to her.
Okay, so is that you overcoming the situation or?
Nope.
Okay, so as you hold it and you tell Jockob to go, Jockob turns around and one of those pincers grabs a hold of him. and lifts him up in the air as he feels the squeeze, and his father, Bernard Fitzsteel, look on with almost adulation to this beast.
I'm gonna roll now.
Okay.
So I got a 1 and a 5. The 5 is my glum one. So what am I doing now, Pat?
So now you'll narrate overcoming, getting yourself and possibly Jockob out of danger in a glum tone.
Okay. I'm gonna use my feat heroic to change it to jovial.
Okay.
And yeah, I think Bronya's kind of get like crumpled down onto one knee, and this strange glow is starting to come out of her face. I think she and that strange honeydew odor, and she I think she kind of rolls to the ground, and the I think she's super heavy, right, and bulky. I think she manages to dislodge the weird massive scorpion millipede from the ceiling, but it's like crashes down. I think she takes the full kind of brunt of it, but manages to kind of dislodge it from Jockob. And I think perhaps no, I think that's it. I'm gonna leave the Bernard Fitzsteel alone.
Okay. So you could pass the dice to another player if you want to see me bring danger upon them, or you
Yeah,
could pass the dice back to the over player to end the phase.
I'm gonna throw it to Jockob because I want to see what happens there.
All right, Jockob, you just got dropped to the floor thanks to the actions of Bronya pulling this millipede off the roof, and you managed to break free from its pincer, but you could tell it's whipping around, and the other end that you know is full of this venom that smells like honeydew for some reason, coming towards you as it swings wide across the cavern, as its legs seem to be able to move it independently from the rest of its body. Just signal if you want me to keep going.
What's Fitzsteel up to?
Fitzsteel is just standing there and just looking on with a somewhat pleased look upon his face.
So I have a question. Can we do something with this moral thing?
During the end game. So right now it's just kind of sitting there. So basically all the threads are kind of a pool that we use in the end game.
Gotcha. Because I think that he needs to learn something about creating his own destiny and creating his own obstacles that he has to overcome. But
Like, I could continue making the situation worse if you want to hold on to the dice. And just, you could feel free to interrupt me when I'm narrating saying, look, I want to roll the dice now.
okay.
All right.
I'll let you keep going.
So yeah, so this thing, like, the back end is moving independently and it's like swinging back towards you as it climbs up the wall and it raises that pincer like it's going to poke right down to the top of your head. But as it moves over, this thing is so long that it actually knocks Volor and Dakkary over onto their backs. You notice Bronya's down, probably dealing with the boiling poison within her exoskeleton. Um, you notice your father step towards Dakkary and pulls out this dagger. But it's weird because the end of the dagger almost looks like the same shape of this insect's stinger.
So Volor calls on the frost and the ice, and like some sharp winds and some ice forms on Barnard, but he just keeps advancing, sort of like cracking the ice and pressing through it.
Love that. So what Andy just demonstrated is slipping and struggling, which all the other characters can do in this scene. If you would like, just say I'd like to slip or struggle, or you could just start narrating. You can narrate yourself fighting against this precarious situation, but you can't narrate overcoming it. It's always going to be one step ahead of you. Until the dice are rolled. So, yeah, so Bernard is breaking through this ice that Volor is trying to slow him down with, but he's coming right after you, Dakkary. Now.
Yeah, I kick over Bronya to see if they're responsive at all, or if they're just completely out.
I think as you roll her over, I think the light that was coming out of her faceplate is only pulsating very weakly now.
Okay, I'll use dice now. Okay, so I'm glum is the high.
Okay.
So I narrate how I fight back, but don't necessarily end the fight.
It's up to you. When you roll those dice, you have full narrative control. If you want this whole cave to crash in on all of you, that's possible. You have total narrative control over the world and everything except for the other rogues, and they're named.
Okay. So my eyes go dark, dark like Brianna's armor, maybe even darker still, where the light, any source of light around me seems to dim, and I'm in a permanent shadow. And you hear me whispering foul names of the ancestors on my mother's side, summoning forth their strength. As I do so, the ice on the walls and everywhere that was already there, it seems to get more brittle, and the air seems to chill as I draw all this light into me, and it forms these icicles that are like stalagmites and stalactites joining through the centipede creature in a really slow motion, a slow inevitable motion, driving through the creature, stopping it in its place as its body is pierced by the slow forming ice.
Nice. Yeah, that's good. I like that. Yeah, so are you saying you killed this thing?
I think it's trapped.
Okay.
I think it's dead.
So you can end if you think the perilous phase is over, you can pass the dice back to me, we can move on to another phase. Or you could pass the dice to another player and see them struggle against peril as well.
Okay. Let's see. We haven't seen Dakkary in this, have we yet?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, let's see how Dakkary's faring in all this now that the creature is trapped, but we're still pretty close at hand, and it's a big thing.
All right. Dakkary. Yeah, you just saw Joccob manage to trap this thing. At least immobilize the stinger bit from stabbing him in his head. But however, Bernard Fitzgerald is still right there by you, wielding a dagger that looks just every bit as vicious as the stinger on this creature. And he comes up to you and he grabs you. Like, does Scholar Dakkary have like long hair, short hair, bald?
Long flowing hair and like billowing satin clothing.
Yeah, he grabs you by the hair and the ear at the same time, and is coming down, bringing your head down upon that dagger. Are you gonna allow that to happen?
I don't think so. But I think I'm definitely struggling. Like I pull out like a short sword and I'm like trying to sort of keep my distance and put something between us, but like I'm just so up close with this thing's face, right? What is it like? What am I seeing?
Oh, David, what is Dakkary saying when he looks upon your father?
When you stare into the face of Barnard's Fitzsteel, his breath, it smells like this honeydew venom. And his eyes don't look human, they look insectoid.
So I think like I managed to like draw my sword across him and gash him, and like this sort of like thick, like viscous golden like liquid kind of pours out, but it's obvious that like it's not enough to stop him.
Yeah, I think this liquid begins to pour out of the gash in his cheek.
Yeah.
And as it falls upon the skin of your hand, you can feel that burn. And it starts to blister.
I sort of like put it up to my mouth to try to like temper it and soothe it, you know, like you would if you like burn your finger on a hot stove.
Mm-hmm.
And I could taste like that sweet honeydew. And then it's like almost like spicy, like burning, you know, my mouth as well.
Yeah, it's super spicy, but yet somewhat tempting. Like, if you could, you would eat Bernard.
And Volor murmurs something, and when they do, like several spikes of ice shoot up from the ground, and Barnard just kind of takes them all in stride and doesn't show any reaction whatsoever.
Yeah, a multi-tone voice emanates from Jockob Flint, the multi-tone voice of his ancestors inhabiting his body, as he demands that Fitzsteel return to his true form. But and for a moment, it seems like those strange insect features are like kind of pushed back into a man, and even like a little bit of red runs down his cheek, but then he turns back.
Yeah. He rubs that fluid coming out of his cheek. You can see it covering his hand. And he's going to press it right in the middle of your face, Dakkary.
So what are my options here again?
So if you're ready to get out of this situation, you can roll the
Yes.
dice.
Okay. I will do so. But that doesn't necessarily dictate me overcoming this obstacle necessarily.
Well, you can overcome it. Like, you can say what you do and pass the dice back to me, and then it's forced to end the phase. So like all of you are at a peril. But you can just overcome this little bit. It's up to you. You just can't kill Bernard Fitzfield. There's only one person that can kill Bernard Fitzfield, and that's Jockob Flint.
I will roll at this point. 6 with Glum is my winner. So, I think I realize, that no physical force, no weapon is going to stay the hand of this creature or person as it may be. And so my only hope to sort of waylay it for the time being is to use the power of song and tale and legend and names to sort of, stay its hand for now. So I think that, like, in chorus with Jacob's like chanting of these foul ancient names, I'm sort of strumming this like dirge that's almost like in memorial to them and for them to sort of strengthen its power. And I think I'll just hand the dice back to you here to tell us what happens next, Pat.
Okay, so yeah, you pass the dice back to me. Anybody can play a trick if they would like to play a trick for the next phase. No tricks. Okay. Go ahead, Andy.
Yeah, I'll play the Omen trick. That seems fun.
Oh yeah.
So the next phase must use the thunder, a single burning shaft of sunfire.
Nice. Oh yeah. Okay. So this is like sometime later. Okay. It is unknown exactly the fates of Bernard Fitzsteel and his somewhat seemingly pet family member millipede scorpion thing. You go ahead and roll for tone here. I roll doubles again, so it's gonna flip the tone to jovial. Go to jovial color. There we go. Yeah, so you've moved deeper into this cavern. And it felt like you've been moving for days. You don't know how long you've been down here. And it has it been days? Hours? Minutes? Seems like you've been down here a really long time. Weeks? I don't know. When was the last time you slept? When was the last time you ate? It seems like all these thoughts and memories just as you try to think about them, they just become jumbled in your mind. Have we been to this section of the cave before? No, I don't know. Maybe there's some bickering going on between all of you. You know, you're lost. I'm not lost. You're lost. I know where I'm going. No, you don't.
Bronya
And-
doesn't say anything. She's like totally dragging. She can hardly walk now. She's just like.
Yeah, and then you come across a place you're pretty sure you haven't seen before in this labyrinth. And the reason you're pretty sure you haven't seen it before is because you have no clue how you're going to get across it. In this one open chamber, you look up and the roof of this chamber is probably 70, 80 feet above you. It's the most massive chamber you've seen in this complex. And as you look up, you see a small hole in the ceiling where the sun is filtering down through the mountain. And it kind of opens up into a cone shape as it spreads out as it fills this chamber. And you realize you've been walking on ice this whole time. But yet between you and the other side of this chamber, which has to be the exit, to get further down to find the layer of knowledge, is a roiling, boiling sea of water. Steam rising up blocks your vision. It's almost like this light isn't natural. I mean, sunlight doesn't boil water? Does it melt ice? At least not up here in the mountains during the wintertime. So let's go to a rogues phase. Volor, this is your omen. Show us how you find out exactly how dangerous this boiling water is.
All right, so that is a glum. So, as a way to test the waters, so to speak, I quiet myself once more and raise a single hand in concentration and call down. It's kind of like a frost that slowly curves and tumbles end over end, gathering together, cascading into the boiling water. And within an instant, it's not even like 2 feet above it when it vaporizes instantly.
Nice.
And I'm going to pass the dice back to Bronya. Show us, Bronya, your incredible durability. Show us how you demonstrate your incredible durability.
Okay then. That is jovial. Okay. I'm gonna use my other feat heroic and change it to glum.
You can't. You've already used. You can only use a feat heroic once per session.
Oh well, I'm just gonna pretty much narrate that anyway. But turn it into jovial. How can I do what I was thinking of doing, but in a jovial way? Oh yeah, okay. So, what's separating us? This like incredibly hot water and steam from where we need to get to?
Yep.
Okay, so I think heaps of this like maybe there's like a way to cross the water itself, like a pathway or something, but it's this like steam emanating up out of it that kind of makes it impassable, like to the party. And I think maybe there's these kind of geyser like bursts of steam and stuff coming up like out of this water. And so we see Bronya kind of still trying to shake off the effects of this venom that's in her system. I think her light's pulsating a little stronger now. And she marches up to the front of the group and kind of like pushes everyone back and then starts to move into this steam. And it's like she kind of slows down at first but keeps moving. And I think it's so hot that like the metal of her armor like starts to glow with the heat. And I think as she's going, she's kind of like picking up rocks and stuff on the path and like jamming them down into these like, you know, little like blowholes and stuff that are emanating most of the steam kind of through the center of this area. So, and then yeah, I think she gets to the other side and kind of drops down onto one knee, but there's like a semi-safe kind of pathway maybe to move through now.
Awesome.
Yeah, and do I pass the dice and ask the question?
Yeah, well, you could pass the dice to another player and make a demand, or you could pass it to the overplayer and make a demand of the world.
Yeah, I think I'll just pass it to you, Pat. And I guess I will ask what completely unexpected scene greets us as we like pass beyond this water and steam.
Okay, so as everybody passes through that pathway through the steam, slightly singed, not totally singed. There's a difference. You realize that there is on this wall in front of you. It doesn't look like solid stone, but it looks like ice. Like perhaps the steam in this place has been being frozen upon this wall for ages, eons, however long this pool has been boiling in here. But you think there's something behind there. You didn't come all this way, cross a pool of boiling water, fight a millipede scorpion, and Joccob's father, just to come to a dead end here, did you? So, yeah. You see a very, very thick wall of ice, but there's something back there. I'm going to pass the dice to... Let's pass it to... I think Scholar Dakkary, this might be a good spot for you. Show us how you figure out what's behind this ice.
Okay. Now, remind me again, when you pass the dice to me, I roll them immediately, or?
Yep, you roll them immediately.
Okay.
The perilous phase is the only phase that's where you hold the dice.
Right. Stymied on 3s.
Ooh, that is a mystery. Okay, so that is a special kind of stymie. So the question I asked you was, show us how you find out what's behind this.
Yes.
Flips that question on its head. Show us how you don't find out what's behind this ice. And since it's a mystery because neither of your dice is above 3, that means that the reason that you don't know is supernatural or mystical in nature.
Okay, cool. Well, I think what we realize is that the reason why we can't see what is behind this ice is because the image that we're seeing is actually a reflection. So we can't determine what's beyond it because we're looking at something else. And what we're seeing is some, like, we get closer and it's like, oh, maybe I do see what's going on in this reflection, but it's not right. This is not match up with what I think my reflection would look like. It's some dark, twisted version of ourselves that we're all looking at, or something nightmarish that we're all seeing here. That worst fear that we had been alluded to as being a guardian. So off the top, I want to know what Volor's dark reflection is.
Okay, so you'll pass the dice to Volor. One more step in your mystery is you have to write a question about that mystery.
Okay. Might the question be something like, what great fear lurks in your hearts, or something like that?
You want it directly related to the mystery that you had in the scene. So
What can we learn from facing our darkest fears?
sure, that could be a mystery. Yeah,
Am
that's
I in
good.
the right angle here? Or
Right, right. So like, think of a mystery as like you just watched a trailer to a movie, but you didn't get all the information.
right.
Like, you know, like
So it'd be more like asking like what is the source
yeah,
of this
yeah, dead on.
of these visions? Okay,
hmm So you want to type that under mysteries in that bullet point.
sure thing.
Volor, you have the dice now.
Okay, that's a glum. So, uh, the reflection you see for Volor, there are like the face is the same, somewhat. Like you can tell, but there's a markedly different form. Like they've become almost one with ice, and the ice is just there's points everywhere, sharp points everywhere, and it's grown in size. And whatever entity this is summoning frost all about them and a chill wind. And behind them, you can see kingdoms that have been enfrosted and covered in snow and chill.
I love it.
So I'm going to pass the dice to Joccob, and I'm going to make the following demand. Show us how your family foresaw this precise moment and prepared you for it.
All right. So real quick, you go ahead and roll your dice. But before we get to that, all right, I filled out the last motif, which means we can move to the end game. But there's one thing holding us up. We haven't heard the milk of paradise be measured or be mentioned yet in narration. So as soon as the milk of paradise is mentioned, we will move into the end game.
All right, so I've got a 3 high.
3 high double or just
No, just a 3 high.
okay? So that will be another moral, unless you want to use one of your feats heroic to overwrite that.
Not really.
Okay, so go ahead and do your narration, but there will be a consequence of it, which will end up in another lesson.
Okay,
And you could come up with a consequence, or I could come up with a consequence. It's up to you.
gotcha. So how have I been prepared for this moment where we've got this great tableau of frozen kingdoms and we're trying to get through it? Is that right?
Well, that's the original thought until it was discovered that there wasn't anything behind the eyes, but an actual twisted reflection.
So wait, what?
So like I know it's a little
What
bit.
am I trying to overcome?
You're not trying to overcome anything. You're just answering Andy's demand. Show us how you've been groomed and prepared for this moment right now.
Yeah, whatever prepared for this moment means to you.
Yeah. Like I have an idea of like what I want to have happen, but I don't even know if like it makes sense at this point. But
Like if you've been prepared to overcome it, if you've been prepared to use this as an opportunity, like
yeah, so I think So I know what this is, and I was sent here with a purpose. And we're looking at this bizarre reflection slash like darker dimension or universe or whatever it is on the other side of the looking glass slash ice. And I pull out from my satchel a small vial, and I uncork it, and somehow it is not frozen. It's still liquid in there, despite how cold this all is. And right in the middle of the pane of ice or glass, I jerk it so that a single drop will land on it. A red bead hits the ice and then starts to spread like wildfire. This red spreads across the entire thing. And all of these frozen figures and frozen kingdoms start to break free of their lethargy and start to approach the glass or ice and suckle at it. And this whole process is taking a long time, and a great cacophony, a great roar of noise is coming from the other side, and it starts to crack. And I don't know which of you asks, but one of you asks, what was that? What was that? And I look at the bottle and I say, this is the blood of the gods. And then I look at the glass, and we see all of those figures suckling at the glass as if it is the milk of paradise.
That was awesome. That was really cool. Sweet. So we are now in the end game. Okay. The great thing about the end game of Swords Without Master is it's just like the regular game. We just keep playing. Real quick, what was the consequence of your actions, David?
I think the consequence of the actions are like, this other place is going to break through into our place.
Okay, cool. So yeah, you'll come up with a lesson for that and just type it under your previous moral.
Yeah, probably that we can't always trust even our own family or something like that.
I love that. Yeah. So now that we're in the end game, I'm going to tell you how it's just slightly different than the regular game. We'll keep playing our phases, we'll keep doing our narrations and our tones, right? But however, if during your narration you can choose one of those motifs and take 2 threads of that motif and like smash it together and remix it into something new. So, for example, say I wanted to reincorporate the first motif, and I was just looking at the first 2 threads, Caves of Ice and Chaos and Destiny. I could describe in my narration Caves of Chaos, or I could describe ice that reveals your destiny. Anything like that, as long as you tie in 2 of those threads into one narration. Don't tell us beforehand when you're going to reincorporate. Just reincorporate and then say, hey, I reincorporated the first motif. That's one way of reincorporating. Second way of reincorporating is you can answer a mystery. So any questions that are under mysteries, you can answer that. That's a way of reincorporating. The third way of reincorporating is what's called suffering a moral, which is taking one of those morals on there and showing how your rogue will either has learned from it or how your rogue will never ever learn from it. Does that make sense? And then once we've had 3 reincorporations, the game is essentially over, but I like doing epilogues, so whatever rogue did not get a chance to reincorporate gets to do the epilogue for the session. All right, so we are still in our rogues phase unless somebody else wants to end it. David, you could pass the dice and make a demand.
I'll pass the dice back to you, Pat. How do these Nightmare Realm creatures demonstrate their malice towards us?
Oh yeah. So you're talking about the direct reflections of your characters, right?
Right.
I believe as these. So you said it was like the rulers of the kingdoms that came up and started suckling on the milk of paradise, right?
It was just, yeah, it was everyone.
Oh, everyone.
Everyone who could manage to get their lips on on the ice.
Yeah, so all these people are like surrounding your reflections, and they're all just suckling at this red, and you see in the eyes of your own reflections like annoyance, like this wasn't supposed to be done like this. And Jockob, you see um you see your own reflection like whispering. You know it's whispering because you've done this before, even though you can't hear it whispering. And as it whispers, you notice like people that were suckling around your reflection, like covering their ears and like falling to the ground and rolling in pain. Um, Dakkary, you notice your reflection starts playing a song that causes a lot of these suckling people to weep and cry. And as they weep and cry, that same red runs out of their face. Um, Bronya, you notice the people that are around your reflection begin to tear at their own skin. They disrobe and tear at their own skin like there's something on them they don't want to wear no more. In Volor, people around you move slower and slower as their eyes turn blue and are frozen in place.
I think I want to end the rogues phase there.
All right. Sweet. Let's go to you know what? I'm gonna roll it right into our rogues phase. Another rogues phase. But this one's gonna be more like a perilous phase. Um so there's gonna be a lot of combat, but there's not gonna be that holding mechanic where I'm bringing it. It's just gonna be you narrating um the demand. So Bronya, I think your reflection was the most gruesome. With the people in the reflection tearing at their own skin, trying to take off something they can't see. Show us how you break down this wall between the reflections so that you can each face your darkest selves. You want to roll
Yeah,
first, Lou?
yeah. Shazam, it is glum. I'm just gonna look for entangled, ensorcelled. Please excuse my rainbow lorikeets if you can hear them. I don't know how noisy they
Your bird's awesome, Lou. Don't ever apologize for it. It just makes noise.
are. Cool. Yeah, so I think, what did you say about my reflection, that it's the most gruesome?
Yeah, because the
In
people
how
are
it's
the people that were around your reflection like disrobed and then started like ripping at their own skin, like they wanted to take their own skin off of themselves.
that is pretty creepy. Yeah, so I think the actual reflection of Bronya is like quite unexpected, and it's just a well, it's where you would expect to see her reflection. It's just quite a plain young woman. There's no like, I guess there's nothing at all related to the armor or anything there, but I guess it's moving in the same way that she's moving in her armor. Yeah, but there's the most kind of like crazy shit is going on around her reflection, and she's kind of the reflection's kind of observing it in a nonplussed kind of way. Doesn't really seem to care that this crazy shit's going on. And I think Bronya gets herself up onto her feet again and just kind of glows the most brightly that we've seen her glow so far, and just runs at this barrier of ice, and the like blade fists come out, and she just starts like punching into the ice, and the reflection on the other side is like this young woman is like punching at the ice from the other side, and there's just these massive cracks, and like I think the first couple of like small breaches appear in it, and it actually has that kind of when they an airlock, it's the wrong totally the wrong genre, but imagine an airlock like on a spaceship opening, and we just get that the other world kind of like rushing in, and all of the stuff breaks off. And that took ages, but now I'm going to pass it on. And I want to ask, I'll pass them to Volor. And I want to show me what happens when you face off with your reflection as it comes through this breach.
Lou, did you reincorporate or no?
Let's see, did I reincorporate? I'm going to say I did the whole Caves of Ice thing with the breaking ice and the like the shattering and of the ice barrier and everything. And I totally just did Chaos and Destiny Return to our world.
Excellent.
I didn't, but yes, I did. I forgot about reincorporating, but that seemed to work pretty well.
Yeah, it did. It worked out real well. So that one is done. That one's off the board. Andy.
So I've decided that I'm also going to reincorporate. So I'm going to reincorporate the second motif. So Volor just sort of brings themselves upright and stands and looks up at this figure who represents, in a way, their own destiny. And their gaze hardens and they lift a hand, and these lights begin to pulse within the cave. And Volor names the names of their ancestors, all of these great evils who formed their lineage. And they renounce every single name, one after the other. And essentially, as the lights flash, this is a ritual purification of their kind. And with every name that's banished, like a piece of the ice begins to melt around this figure. And I'm going to pass back to Joccob. So, Joccob, show us how you discover a secret within the hearts of these reflections.
Okay. So I'm going to show this. I can still roll. Is that
Yeah, you still roll.
still roll? Okay. Do we I have less than 3. Do we still do all that stuff too? Or?
Are you planning to reincorporate?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you reincorporate, you still have a consequence of your actions, but we don't need to put a new moral on the board.
Okay. Gotcha. And could you say the prompt one more time, Andy?
Yeah. Show us how you discover a secret in the heart of the reflections.
Okay. Um, so I'm standing nearest my reflection, within an arm's length, and we're like sizing each other up, and then I start to like speak to it slowly, like words of like boasts about how I'm the superior one, and then start to like laugh and act like nothing like myself. Um, and my reflection seems confused and off put and like draws closer. Um, and like just as it gets close enough, I pull a knife and drive it into the chest of my reflection. And this black starts to come out, and it's like that scene in the Matrix where the mirror is engulfing him. It's engulfing me, and like that, my reflection is becoming me, and I am becoming my reflection. We're joining into one, combining the two halves until just one Joccob is standing there, and it's not clear which it is.
Nice. I love it.
And I was trying to reincorporate the moral: we can't always trust our friends or even our own family.
Okay. Can't even
Turns out,
trust your own
or even
reflection.
your own reflection.
So true. Awesome. So everybody, or 3 players out of the 4 have reincorporated. So essentially the game is over, but we do need an epilogue. So Michael, you get to roll the dice for a tone and give us an epilogue.
What happens when you stymie under 2 for the epilogue?
It doesn't matter. We were jovial, so the epilogue is going to be glum.
Okay. So I think that there's a lot of disturbance going on in this cave. And it's sort of like everything is sort of starting to shake. A great chasm is like opening in the center. And Dakkary is standing there, and his feet are sort of like straddling this like widening chasm, as is his reflection. And like all of this like red, like milky textured liquid is like starting to flow out of the walls and like into this chasm. And it's like you can sort of see it like flowing almost out of this cave. And Dakkary looks down into it, and you hear him like whispering like, "Oh, I have dined on honeydew, and soon I will drink the milk of paradise. The sacred river Alf will lead me to Xanadu." And like his like reflection is like harmonizing the same thing and like sort of looking into the thing, and you see him like just fall into the chasm and like drift away. But I think that this chasm has sort of like separated this room into two halves. And we have on one side, probably we have like Volor and Bronya, and they're sort of like looking at Joccob on the other side. And then behind him reappears like Bernard Fitzsteel. And with the power of his like sword drenched in the blood of his own dark reflection, he's going to be able to combat Bernard. And I think that we sort of like maybe just end with sort of an ambiguous like duel. We just see them like clashing swords, and we see like Bronya and Volor sort of like watching it happen, and I don't really know. Can I share the epilogue? Is that okay?
Yeah, it's fine as long as it's cool with the other characters. We're good.
Yeah, take it from there, folks. What do you think would be interesting to bring about from that?
I kind of like that whole idea of the swords just like clashing, like, center screen, and yeah, that.
Yeah, I like that.
I don't know if other people react to it, but that seems satisfying to me.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. Like, I really like that closing shot.
Yeah, but which Jockob is it? Is it the evil one or the good one? Or were they both evil? Sweet, awesome. Thank you all for playing. That was Swords Without Master for anybody watching. Always a fun game. It always tells a great self-contained story. That's why the mechanics of it are so fun. You start in one place, you end in some place where you didn't expect. And it all ties in together. So thank you all for anybody watching, and to you, my players, thank you for playing. It's always a joy to play this game. I'll play it forever. This is a game I probably won't ever stop playing on a regular basis if I can help it. So before we take off, I'm gonna go through and let everybody say goodbye. And if there's anything you want to point out, gaming related, a community, a song, a movie you like, anything you want to give a shout out to, go ahead. Michael, we'll start with you.
Sure. Well, thanks again, Pat, very much for leading me through this game. It was my first time playing Swords, and I have a slightly better understanding of it now, for sure, and the sort of process that it involves. I really enjoy playing with theme, and I thought some of the themes and motifs and things in this game were really cool and interesting and really weird and psychedelic, and it was just a lot of fun. And it was nice to be able to just bring that stuff without necessarily having to like explain it with like, well, I can do that because I have a +1 broadsword or whatever, so that was cool. I had a great time. Yeah.
Awesome, thank you. David.
This was great. I had not played this before, but I've heard about it for years, so I'm very, very happy to get to play it. I love story games, and I love this for all the reasons that Michael just said. The free-flowing fiction, but with like some consequences, was really, really satisfying. I had so much fun. But if anyone out there is watching, I do want to plug, if you like games like this, we at the Gauntlet create a zine called Codex, where we release an issue every month. And lately, those have become more and more focused on releasing small press games like similar to this, story games that are oftentimes self-contained in one adventure, very story-centric, less emphasis on the mechanics. So if you like games like this, check out Codex.
Thank you. Andy.
Yeah, so I'm Andy here signing off. I've always loved Swords. It's like there's something magical about this game that just brings really cool stuff to the table that nobody is planning on, that nobody saw coming. And like, I think it was mentioned that there's all sorts of cool stuff that can happen without you having to worry about justifying it. Like when I ran Swords at Gauntlet Con, I do believe that the group actually like rebooted the universe twice. It had a very Sandman feel that time, but I love how it also just has all sorts of tones that you can do with it.
Mhm.
You can also do a very humble, like sword and sandal sort of thing if you really want to.
Yep.
Um,
I've seen all sorts of flavors in swords games.
yeah. And like the cool thing that I want to mention is that, well, from my perspective tomorrow, but January 20th, 2019, the creator of Swords is starting a Kickstarter for another game called Wolfspell, which I know very little about, but it's about wolves and magic, and I think it borrows some of the mechanical ideas and iterates on those, so I'm really excited to see that.
Yeah, awesome. If I could touch on that, Wolfspell was in, I think, issue 1 of Worlds Without Master. Um, Swords Without Master is in issue 3 of Worlds Without Master, and David mentioned Codex earlier and how the Gauntlet puts games in Codex, like little story games and stuff like that, into Codex. Epi, that's how Swords Without Master came to be. Epi has a zine based on swords and sorcery. Swords Without Master was in um, issue 3, and Wolfspell was in issue 1, but is now getting a fully funded Kickstarter issue, which, yeah, Andy, I think is really awesome. Thank you for jumping in and joining me and the rest of us on our game of Swords Without Master. I appreciate that.
Can I touch on one thing that sort of ties some of those things together? Can I reincorporate some of these motifs here at the end?
You can
I was-
reincorporate.
I was like, I've played with some of you folks before. The Gauntlet's been a great time, and I was trying to remember, like, how is Andy tied to Swords Without Master in my mind beyond just being a fan? And then David brought up Codex, and that reminds me that in a couple issues of Codex, we have contributions from the illuminated Andy Hogg here, specifically for the use of Swords Without Master, dealing with jovial moments and glum moments. So check those out in Codex Joy, and Codex Dark 2, I think, has some of those as well, if you like Swords Without Master.
Excellent reincorporation. Since everybody has reincorporated, Lou, why don't you give us an epilogue and a goodbye?
Yeah, thanks for playing with me, everyone. I really liked the moment I realized that most of us were probably some kind of villains in that game. I thought we were going to save the universe. I think it seemed maybe like Volor was still doing something good, perhaps. I don't know, maybe. If some sort of genocide maybe as well, though I don't know. Ancestral genocide. Anyway, I really like that. I'm like, I'm a hero going to do some cool thing, and I'm like, oh, I'm just breaking the wall between the worlds, and the entire world is probably going to turn into ice now. Good times.
Awesome.
Yeah, anyway. That
Thank
was
you, Lou.
fun.
Yeah, it seems like I would say around 80% of Swords Without Masters games usually end with the bringing about of the end of the world. Mainly because there is always one player that has a named prophecy about the end of the world, um, which it just happens. Also, if you ever play Swords with Maria, the world's gonna end, guaranteed. So if you ever get a chance to play Swords Without Master with Maria, definitely do it. They're so fun. Thank you, everybody. I am Patrick, Fictive Fun. I will be back on stream next Tuesday night for another session of Shadow the Demon Lord with Mr. Luke Wade and Darren and Dolan. Super fun. You should check us out if you have any free time on Tuesday evenings. It's just watching the two goblins just get themselves into trouble over and over and over again is hilarious. Definitely check out my blog, fictivefun.com. Check out the Gauntlet at gauntletrpg.com. And once again, thanks everybody that stopped by or is watching a later recording of this. Love you. Keep rolling them dice. Bye, everybody.